Like, maybe I should take the knight. So now his d pawn is no longer isolated, but I'm going to blockade the pawns. Hi everyone, this is round 3 of the Central Pennsylvania Championship. In this round, I played a FIDE master, Karl Dehmelt. He actually first became the state champion in 1985, and most recently was a state champion in 2023. So he is a legend of Pennsylvania chess. I had the pleasure of playing him for the second time, and the first time he mopped the floor with me. So this time I'm hoping to get revenge, and I started the tournament with 2 out of 2, so I'm hoping to keep that momentum going. He played e4, I played c6, and so this is the KR Khan, and he exchanges and then plays c4. So this is called a Panov variation, Panov attack, and I don't see it too often. Definitely not the most common variation I see, but I definitely have a decent amount of experience with it. I just play knight f6, defending the pawn. He develops naturally, and we both get our knights out, and I play the move a6. This is where I deviate from a lot of other people. I don't even know what the main move is. Let me look at this. So it looks like a lot of games go bishop g4 or e6 or bishop e6. So there's a lot of moves here, and a6 is just a useful move because a lot of times black wants to go b5, and in some cases when if white tries to like take on d5 and pressure this diagonal from a2 to f7, like this diagonal here, sometimes you can play the move knight a5, and if there's any and you control this diagonal better from any checks. Like for example, let me like takes, and bishop c4. I think here you can play bishop e6, and if like queen b3, you have the move knight a5, attacking both the queen and the bishop. And if queen a4 check, then b5. So I've actually won games like that. So a6 is a useful move. That's kind of my point. Even though it feels weird to just move a flank pawn in the opening like this instead of developing a piece, I like this move a lot because I feel like my opponents don't see it that much. Karl, he plays bishop g5, attacking my knight, and the threat is to, like let's say I play, I don't know, a move like g6, then he could take and then take on d5, removing. So he's removing a defender of d5 potentially. So that's why after bishop g5, I played bishop e6, and he simply takes. So he didn't have to take. He could have waited. For example, one of the a common way for white to play is, since I blocked in my own e pawn, sometimes white will make a waiting move wait till I play g6 and then take on f6, because now I've made this extra pawn move, and they want to me to waste a tempo, but as opposed to what happens in the game where he takes immediately and I can immediately put my bishop on a decent square, and I didn't waste a move with g6. So that's what some people do. A small note also is that after a move like bishop e2, I'm never threatening to take the pawn, because he can take my knight and then fork me, and defended by both the knight and the queen there. So that would be bad news bears. He hasn't taken my knight immediately, and then plays bishop e2. But now my bishop has nice scope here, and I can just play bishop e4, and he takes. If he castles, then I am actually threatening to take the knight and then take the pawn, because now d5 is not a fork, because the knight on c3 doesn't exist to defend the d5 pawn. So he can't fork me, and I just be up a pawn. It's not a super convincing pawn. Like this pawn could be hard to defend. But a pawn is a pawn is a pawn is a pawn. But you know, there's no reason to go a pawn like that if you don't have to. So that's why after bishop e5, he exchanges and then castles. And I think this is the moment where I really had to decide if I wanted to play for a win or not. Like, if I am going to play for a win, it probably is now. Like, maybe I should take the knight. So now his d pawn is no longer isolated, but I'm going to blockade the pawns. And if he tries to, I'll play queen f5 check, then I have b5. My knight's guarded by my queen. And if he puts a rook behind the pawn, then I could potentially play, I could maybe take this pawn. But I could also just play knight c4, and these pawns are blockaded, and there's a lot of play left in the position. But what happens in the game is that I castle, and he takes my, he moves a rook here. I move my rook to the open file, and then he takes and plays bishop c4. So actually in this position, I thought for 12 minutes on a rook e8. Because I was moving pretty instantly up to that point. Also, tournament details in the description below, by the way. So it's game in 60, delay 5. So I thought for 11, 12 minutes here on rook e8 because I wasn't sure what to do. Because I know what his plan is. His plan is to, like, even back here, his plan is to take my bishop and then play bishop c4 and push his pawn to d5. And at the end of the day, like, this d-pawn can be an asset or it could be a weakness. And if you can just keep pushing it forward, then it's definitely an asset. So I really want to control the squares in front of the d-pawn here. So that's why I thought for so long on this move, on rook e8, because I wasn't sure whether to do rook e8 or rook c8. For example, rook c8, then it is on this open file, but which open file is more important, or are they both equal? I was trying to figure that out, and I actually decided that rook e8 was slightly more important because after takes, bishop c4, queen h5, and then move d5. So now he successfully controlled the square in front of the d-pawn, of the d4 pawn, so he can finally push it. After knight e5, after he takes and I take, now my queen and rook both control this open file together. So that's why I decided to play rook e8. I thought for a while on it, on a small nuance. And I thought, like, probably in this position, both moves were good. This is just an equal position. I don't think there's anything wrong with either move. I do want to note that if I go for the same idea that I talked about earlier, like in this position here, I'm jumping around a little bit, but in this position here, I said now would be the only time where I could take and go here to blockade these pawns and have a lot of play left in the position. If we instantly go forward here for a second, if I try to do the same thing now, if I take here and then pawn takes and go knight a5, trying to blockade, well, it's too late. He already gets c4 in, and like the pawns are rolling. And this is bad news bears. And like the pawns just keep going. The pawns can just keep going. I mean, maybe he wouldn't play like this, but still, like, do you see the difference there? Like, if I took the knight immediately on c3, I can blockade these pawns. But if I don't do it immediately and I try to do it later, then I get steamrolled by these two center pawns. So it's very, very important that kind of nuance there, in my opinion. Although, once again, maybe he wouldn't play like this because the A pawn is hanging, but this bishop looks awfully loose on the square. It looks awfully alone. But maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. Not 100% sure. I maybe b5 and queen c2. And takes. And I'm still up a pawn. But maybe this is okay for everybody. I don't know. But this was what I was worried about, though. These two center pawns rolling down the board. That's the main thing I was worried about. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, I do play rook e8 though, and we do make this trade. He does play bishop c4, and he does play d5. But the main feature of this position is that we have opposite colored bishops. Like, that's like kind of the main thing. And sometimes it's not relevant. Like, our queens are still on the board and we still have these knights. But if we trade off all the rooks and both knights and both queens, like, it's just a draw because I control the dark squares really well with my bishop and he controls the light squares very well and with his bishop, and then the game goes on and yeah, it's just hard to win. Just hard to win opposite colored bishop games. And knights are on the board, but now they're not. I did consider taking the queen after rook takes, pawn takes, but I didn't like the idea of allowing him to push Although it doesn't look that good. Because let's say he does push. I can't take it because it's guarded by the rook. So after rook d8, it's not easy for him to continue pushing. And like maybe if he's lazy, he'll lose it. But he can probably just push again. And but after b5, bishop here, and rook here. Actually, this move is annoying. Oh, wait, no, it's not. Oh, but there's this move. What is happening? What? Okay, but it's okay for me. Yeah, because now the rook's not pinned anymore. Okay, anyways. So, so I didn't want to allow the pawn to get the d6 and continue pushing, but maybe it's actually okay. So that's why I just took back with the queen. And I don't think I'm worse here because my queen is centralized. My bishop has good vision. I don't think I'm better either. I think this is just an equal position. He plays rook c2, potentially going rook e2, and also his b pawn was hanging, so he defends it. I go g6, giving luft for my king. There was something, I played this game yesterday, so I don't quite remember, but there was something I was really calculating. I was calculating really deep here, and I was trying to figure out what it was. Like, I think I was calculating something like rook a d8, and after rook here, maybe a move. I don't even know what I was thinking. But there's some issue that could have happened with the back rank. Like even here, for example, here, what was I thinking? I just don't remember. Yeah, it was something where like I couldn't take this because of like back rank checkmate somewhere. I don't remember what I was thinking. But anyways, but g6 is a pretty natural move anyways. Like I probably wouldn't want to go like, because I want to give my king luft, so I don't have to worry about back rank issues in the future. But you probably don't want to play h6 because he controls the light squares very well, and so I might want to play g6, and it goes against any bishop or queen that's on this diagonal. And it's going to be much harder for him to cover the dark squares around my king than the light squares. Maybe I could have been aggressive and played h5. Although, rook here, and I have to keep touch of this h4 pawn to make sure not to lose it. But maybe I could try to play aggressively. Like maybe h5 is a decent alternative. I don't see anything wrong with that. I wonder if I don't think he would have played a move like h4. I don't think so. Yeah, he probably wouldn't play a move like that. But I played g6. I thought it made sense. And then he played g3, giving his own king some luft. And I centralized my rook. And so now my queen doesn't have to keep in touch with the d6 square to stop him from pushing. And it gets my rook out of the corner. So I thought it made a lot of sense. One thing I don't want to do is play b5. Because after bishop b3, there's this really juicy square for him on c6. And maybe that's not bad for me, but there's also no reason to give him this square. Like when before, he'll never be able to put his rook, he'll never be able to infiltrate on any side of my territory because of my dark squared bishop, especially when I get my bishop from d6 to c7. Or from b4 to d6 here. It covers c7 and c5 really, really well. And like, there's no way he's going to infiltrate if I have my pawns work with my bishop to cover everything. So of course, at this point, I definitely wasn't worried about losing or anything like that. So I centralized my rook. He moves his queen off the back rank. And I really wanted to play the move queen e4 because it attacks the rook and the queen at the same time. And if we trade, like, I already thought I wasn't going to lose this game, but now I really don't feel like I'm going to lose this game. And of course, if he cannot take the pawn, because then he loses the rook, of course. So I really wanted to play queen e4. And if it seems like I'm playing for a draw, like I sort of am, because I'm not unhappy with a draw. I started the tournament with 2 out of 2. So, and my opponent is a much stronger player than me. And if I give him the opportunity to outplay me, he probably will. It's not 100% guaranteed. Like maybe he won't, but he might. but in a position like this, like I don't think I'm gonna lose. It's hard to lose a position like this. So after queen f3, I really want to play queen e4, but I was really annoyed by the move queen b3, attacking my bishop and preparing to push the pawn and attack f7 with both the bishop and the queen. So I didn't like it, and I was like, okay, like what am I supposed to do? If I go a5, he goes a3, and if I go back, then he takes, and like what am I doing? Why am I giving him a pawn? Why am I allowing him to infiltrate? Like this is just not necessary, it feels like. So that's why after queen f3, I play the move bishop d6. I also want to highlight another thing I thought about, where after rook c2, I did think about the move queen e1, because if rook takes, queen takes, bishop takes, now we traded off queens, and I should never lose this because it's opposite colored bishops with one rook each. But then I was like, wait a second, what if I do lose this? Like for example, after rook here, and I like bishop moves. Okay, well maybe actually, what's the best way to play it? Maybe a3. Maybe a3. Maybe it's bishop b3 or d5. Then rook here and rook here. And after the bishop moves, there's d7, and I cannot take because of back rank checkmate. There are some like random things like that could occur. And it just didn't look pleasant to me to force a trade of queens like this. Also, it's not very forcing. Like for example, he could play the move g3. And then what is my queen doing there? I could take, and then go check here, I guess. But then he still just improved his position. Like, I don't know. I wasn't really sure what to think about queen e1. It just seemed unprincipled. So I just didn't play it. But I did think about it though. Anyways, back to where I was talking about. So I didn't play queen e4 because of queen b3. So that's why I played bishop d6. And he played rook d1, centralizing his rook, preparing to push it potentially if I move away my defenders from it. And I play queen e4. Because now I have queen b3, now I just play b5. And I said I didn't want to play b5, but now b5 is a lot better because it comes with tempo. And let's say, I don't even know what move to make for him. I guess he could go bishop here. Why was I not scared of this? Oh, I can do this. I can take on d5. And if he takes, open up attack on my queen, I can just take. And the rook blocks the queen's vision on the other rook. And if he maybe does a move like queen e2. I also forgot what I was thinking here. I mean, I honestly could maybe even just consider this move. But then bishop f3 happens. Maybe this isn't the most pleasant thing in the world. It's probably still a draw. I'm not sure how to think about this. But I was definitely not scared of this move. I could also play the move rook e7. Although it gets a little bit dicey with bishop here. Or rook here, I mean. Rook e2. It gets a little bit dicey. And he's close to winning a pawn. Like for example, rook takes, bishop takes. But he cannot take because his queen defends his rook on d1. So like, for whatever reason, I felt better about. I was not scared of queen b3. I wasn't scared. But yeah, definitely the game goes on. Definitely if he plays queen b3. But he takes, and I take back, and now he plays bishop f1, opening up the door for his rook. But right now, my bishop, my pawn, and my rook guard this open file really, really well. I double up my rooks on the e file. So potentially I can infiltrate on, if he goes bishop g2, potentially I can infiltrate on e1, or I even more likely e2 and try to get on his second rank. And in an ideal world, I'll go b6, bishop here, and apply pressure on f2. But that's unlikely. I probably don't have enough time for that. And he just plays king g2, and I play f5, and King g2, just improving the position of the king. F5, improving my pawn structure, and I might even go F4 to get rid of my doubled pawn and try to open up his king a little bit potentially. And he plays king F3, gaining his king a bit more active here. So I could play the move F4, and then he could play the move rook E2, and now my rook is hanging. So I probably have to take, and this is probably totally fine for black. But I decided not to go F4. I thought it would be fine if I did, but I didn't. I just went king G7, and then he went rook C4, and out for the draw. And I accepted. So this was the most nothing game I've played in a while. As in, like, we both just played normal moves. We both put our pieces on good squares, and not much happened. Not much happened. And I'm not sure what I should have done differently, or if there's anything I should have done differently. The only moment that I can think of is this moment. This is the only moment that I can think of where I could have gone bishop takes c3 and knight a5, and in long term, this I'm gonna blockade it. So long term, this pawn will be a weakness, a c3 pawn. That's kind of my goal. And I even fixed this pawn in place with the move b5 as well. So I think I should have gone for this, especially if I wanted to try to win. But instead we had this very dry game. I think that's an accurate way to describe it. Pretty dry game. Not much happened, and yeah, that was that. I guess that was that. So I end round 3 with 2.5 out of 3, and I was on board 2 for this round. And yeah, I'm one of the only few people who has that high of a score, so I was very happy with it, and I was hoping for the next 2 rounds to keep going and get a couple more wins in the last 2 rounds. So I think I'm gonna run game review, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.